that. This is something, we understand research. If students are successful their freshman year in high school, and they're able to get and stay on track in some way, then their high school career has the potential of being a successful experience. But if we get into the routine of having to repeat courses and things of that nature, and we lose them early, that is when you see dropout rates. The frustration of not being successful come into play. We like to mitigate that damage by having some intensive work done with our ninth graders upon entering high school, at all of our high schools.
Yes, sir. Steve.
My question has to do with the 40 students that you have in the academy this year. And my question is, how are they doing, and are you using this process to work with them?
Right now, they don't have this particular course. Right now, the way we work with those 40 students is just through that year-long English and math course. And that is the issue that we are confronted with, and we're trying to focus on goal setting, social emotional development, empathy. We live in a world of technology where just to get our students off of social media and interact with one another, personal skills, all of those, it's a challenge. And so when we just have the freshman academy that we have now, they're still in their English and math class, and we have to cover the English and math content. So to be able to have an elective course where we could truly focus in on those particular skills that these students need to be successful is where we like to branch this out. Our freshman academy, our 40 now, they came in as at-risk students. Many are still at risk. We are still having to work with them, watch them. That's why they're in this year-long course, because they've still got another semester to make the growth that they need to make in their English and math classes. But they are in a smaller setting and have now that relationship with those two teachers.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Any questions further? Yes, Mr. Mims.
Principal Rice. If the students that are currently in the program, if they, you say they have another semester, if for some reason they are not successful, what will happen to those students?
Well, it's an eye-opener for high school students. Course promotion and promotion in high school is based on individual CEU credits. We go constantly. How many credits do you need to move into your sophomore year? 6, and one of those has to be English. How many need to become a junior? 12, and you have to have English. So as we watch these students, that's why they're in those core courses. They have to have 4 Englishes to graduate. They have to have those 4 maths to graduate. So we put them in that year-long course to have longer to work with them. If not, we do have students. That is why that 9th grade group across the state is so much larger. We see a 25% failure rate often in the 9th grade across the state with our freshmen. And that's the area that our students are not being promoted. So they don't promote. We try to catch them up. We have summer school, we have course recovery credit, and we have online classes that they can take. But most importantly, we want them to earn every single credit they can earn so they can stay on track to graduate.
All right, thank you. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the motion that we need to have someone nominate and then second. A motion to approve the freshman seminar as a local elective beginning in the 2019-20 school year. We have a motion. We have a motion. Mr. Rivers, second. Mr. Min. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rice.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Ms. Rice. Our next item this evening is that at Mount Energy Elementary School. I'd like to call our Principal of the Year, Ms. Mary Ann Cruz, to the podium at this time. Mount Energy Elementary would like to be approved as a school of choice. So we wanted to bring this to you gentlemen this evening before we launch into our registration season, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Cruz. Good evening, Ms. Cruz.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me address you tonight. I come to you, Board of Education, on behalf of the Mount Energy leadership team, as well as our community, to ask to become an elementary school of choice. Our choice program is entitled A Community School for Students of Character. And what our basis of coming to this school of choice program is that we really believe in the quote that's here, that our job as an elementary school, the foundational level of a child's education, is not just to form the academic skills, which are highly important, but to also develop the character skills of students. And we need to do that intentionally. We need to do that programmatically throughout our school. So at Mount Energy, we have decided to become a school of character. What we are looking at is there's a national system called the 11 Principles of Character. This is sponsored by character.org. And it basically really outlines for us what are the tenets that a school has that really supports the development of individuals' character. It looks at things like, are you involving your community and parents? Do you have things like self-motivation? And we've used our program, and we're basically evaluating our school based on these 11 principles. And from there, we're going to really develop our kids to both have moral and ethical values and performance values. And I really like how it's divided into those two categories, because character just isn't about being a nice person. It's about being a good student as well. It's about meeting high expectations and taking that into the classroom. And so that's sort of where we wanted to go with this program. We have highlighted here for you in yellow the ones that we already are teaching our students. And when I say teaching, our guidance counselor does monthly lessons. What's going to be different about Mount Energy versus other elementary schools is that we're going to take the next level to that, which is actually an integration into the curriculum. So we will take our Common Core standards and actually integrate with the materials we choose and the themes we choose, actually integrate character in them. I gave you an example tonight. I think it's important that you see the actual student work. And so self-discipline was our trait for the month of December. And our fifth graders all had to, as they were learning about writing essays and learning about writing paragraphs, actually lay out with the details of writing what it means to be a self-disciplined person. And so this is just an exemplar essay I wanted you to see that a fifth grader produced from our school, really laying out. I think I wanted to give it to many adults in our lives as well, because I think the student really captured and really good detailed the qualities that self-discipline really includes. And so I wanted you to see that. Other examples are things like reading books like Wonder and understanding what kindness is in society, and then challenging them to go out in our community and see how we can portray that. And so we are really invested as a school community to care about our community, and we want students that can do that on both levels. And we want the opportunity to become a choice school, so anyone within Granville County that has those same values and wishes would be allowed to send their child to Mount Energy. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions, board members?
I just have a real quick question. Not about this, but just as a new board member, I'm just curious. I thought it was now state law to teach cursive writing. Is that?
It is, yes, sir.
I was just curious why this was printed. We are teaching cursive writing, basically.
Yes, sir. It starts in 3rd grade. Instruction has to go 3rd through 5th grade. By the end of 5th grade, they need to be able to produce a piece of writing. In this assignment, children were given opportunities. Some were cursive written, some were typewritten.
Thank you so much.
All right, other questions or comments? I certainly could never attend this school because when I read that letter, there were a lot of things on there I couldn't do.
It's a high standard.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, I'd just
Yes,
like to remind
ma'am.
all of our board members that all of our elementary schools, as a result of your work last year, are PET schools. So they focus on healthy, active children. This would be an additional layer at Mount Energy. This is not a lieu of, this is on top of being a school for healthy, active children.
Dr. McLean, just to go off that, so this month our trait is cooperation, and so we're talking about how we can do active things within the classroom, that you can kind of do those brain breaks in the elements of catch, and then teach the kids cooperation along with that.
Okay. Very good. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Richardson. Second, Mr. Beauty. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. I now would like to turn the microphone over to Dr. Michael Myrick, who has some policies you all have received for first read. Dr. Myrick.
Good evening, Dr. Houlihan and board members. The policies that you have before you this evening have required or highly recommended changes to them. The first one we will look at this evening is policy 2670, which is the Business Advisory Council. The only change that is noted in this policy is in the footnotes. You will scroll all the way to the bottom. It's a legislative change in number. You will see it right there. It went from, I can't read it from here. But it went from 1720, I think, to 1710, or vice versa. They dropped the 0 on the number. So that's the only change with that one. Next. The next policy is homeless students. In this particular policy, 4125, you're going to see a lot of red. And what has happened with this policy, they reworded or switched things around to make it more reader friendly. So basically they moved things to different sections of the policy. The piece that is different and that is required in this policy is in section E. In section E, it is number 8, 10, and 11. Those are the pieces on section E that are required for us to do with our homeless students. As soon as I get to that page, go. Communicating the dispute resolution process to parents, guardians, and unaccompanied youth experiencing homelessness. That's number 8. Number 11. Is ensuring that when parents, students, and unaccompanied youth initiate the dispute resolution process, all parties comply with the dispute resolution policy, and that parents, students, and unaccompanied youth are provided with the information listed in subsection D1.B of this policy. And number 10 is developing a uniform written notice that explains to parents, guardians, and unaccompanied youth their rights and the process for appealing a decision of school officials as required by subsection D.1.B of this policy. The notice must be written in simple and understandable format and translated to other languages as needed and practical. The next policy. Unsafe school chores. Again, this is a change in the legislation. And it's changed the language from no child left behind to every student succeed, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Legal references, Elementary and Secondary Act of 1965, and they changed that language from no child left behind. And the final policy is policy 4333. And it's adding a statement in on page 2. This is a practice that we started using last year. Middle and high school students may also utilize the anonymous safety tip line for reporting risk to the school population. Any questions about these 4 policies?
So these are first read, which means then we'll come back at the next board meeting for second read and approval. Question? Yes, Mr. Judy?
I was going to ask if we could, if I could make a motion on the waiver. I don't see anything we really need a second read on, but a waiver to go ahead and vote on these tonight.
Okay, we have a motion for a waiver. Is there a second?
Just to be clear, a motion to waive your policy requiring a second reading.
Yes.
The motion and a second, and then a 2/3 vote. So is there a second? Second. Mr. Pease? Any further discussion? Mr. Yes.
Yes, I do have a question. On the Business Advisory Council, what is the frequency of that council reporting to the Board of Education?
Twice a year, if I'm not mistaken.
Once a year.
One.
Once a year.
I think we've chosen
Annual.
to do it.
Yes, our plan is to do it twice. You will hear from the council next month, which is Career Technical Education Awareness Month. We will have a presentation from the board that will talk about the work that from the meeting we had in December, and also let you know what we're planning to do with the Business Advisory Council moving forward in the spring. So you will be receiving reports from us this year.
Thank you, Dr. Myers. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Are you ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, unanimous, which means you agree. Correct?
That's correct, so now you may move to approve the policy.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we approve these 4 policies that are presented for us.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer.
Next on our agenda this evening will be Dr. Stan Winborn, who also has a set of first reads. Dr. Winborn.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, tonight I have a single policy which is actually located in 3 different locations in our policy manual. This is school safety, and just like policy 4333 that Dr. Meyer just presented, this policy includes language changes around the anonymous tip line that is now practiced in our schools. That is the only change to this policy.
Okay. Any questions? Could we move on with this one as well?
At your pleasure.
All right. We need if you would like to, we need a motion to waive the second reading.
Yes, I move that we waive the second reading of this policy.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Yes, sir. Mr. Smith, this takes a 2/3 vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Now a motion to approve the policy, the changes to the policy. Him?
Approve changes to the policy.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Richardson, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We have nothing in the area of capital management this evening, but we do have fiscal responsibility. Ms. Day will be presenting the budget amendment as required each month, and in the financial update and board travel. After that, she will present, as she does every January, the new budget timeline. Ms. Day.
Thank you. Dr. Houlihan, board members. Tonight we have budget amendments for several funds. The first fund being the state fund. This budget amendment is budgeting additional state funding. It's budgeting the school safety equipment grant we received, $75,110. State mandated bonus funding, $32,834. Transportation funding, $4,000. Textbook funds, $25,438. School technology fund, $4. And a reduction of the summer reading grant funds, $3,883. The total of that is $132,503, and that is an increase to the overall state budget to a total of $50,431,161.
Okay.
The second budget amendment is the local fund, and this is neither an increase or decrease to the total budget, but is an adjustment within for coding for insurance and dues. The next budget amendment is a budget amendment for federal grants funds, and this is budgeting career technical education funds, $19,472, IDAs, preschool funding, $19,693. Title V, $37,500. Language acquisition state grant, $427. And the largest of this, 21st Century Community Learning Center funds, $279,700. So the increase in the total federal fund budget is $356,792 for a total amended federal grants fund budget of $4,573,780. The last budget amendment is for the other restricted fund, and this is to adjust budget for a few different funding sources. One, recycling revenue received, $733. A WOW Coalition grant for Wilton Trail, $17,600, and adjust the budget within the Exceptional Children's Department budget. So it is an increase to the other restricted fund budget of $18,333 for a total amended budget for the other restricted fund of $3,407,674.
Okay. Any questions? Do I have a motion to approve the budget amendments as presented? Mr. Richardson? Second. Mr. Mims, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
The next item is the financial update, and board members, you have a financial update as of November 30th, 2018. At that point, we're 42% through our fiscal year, and the percentages are in line and the expenditures are within the approved budgets. The next item that is included there is board travel, and this is board travel as of November 30th that is presented on a monthly basis. Expenditures as of November 30th, 2018 are $4,214.44. So the balance in that board travel budget is $6,409.56.
Are there any questions? These are both information items. All right.
Board members, the last item that I have tonight is the budget timeline. This is a similar to the prior year timeline. I will mention that the budget process is already underway with planning and data gathering. The budget will include input from various layers of stakeholders. We're working on putting the district budget committee together to include representation from various schools, different parts of the county, employees, and community, as was done last year. This calendar, this timeline is a guide. As you can see, most of the dates are arranged. As the process continues, specific dates will be fleshed out, and board members will be made aware of these dates as specifics are developed. The end game will be that the budget proposal will be presented to the Board of Education for consideration on April 22nd, 2019. And then that will be presented to the county commissioners. This is the process that's required in the spring as required by general statutes for the Board of Education to provide the county commissioners with a budget proposal by May 15th.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda is future school board elections. And Mr. Rivers, I think you requested this be on the agenda, so we'll ask you to take it over.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Granville County is the only school district in the state that has 6-year terms for its board members. I think there are advantages to returning to a 4-year term. The 6-year term came about in about 1960 when the city and county schools were merged, and that was a compromise position directed by the state legislature. Changing our terms to 4 years would require the state legislature to change the general statute that formed our school system. what I propose tonight is that we consider for a February discussion and vote, changing our terms from 6 years to 4 years. And I would like to propose that, and I'm happy to volunteer any of the board members that would like to work on a staggered rotation. Perhaps we could get it in line with the county commissioners so that when races are run every 2 years, each district would have a board member and a county commissioner up for election. Might increase voter turnout, but that's one thought. But we present to the board a plan of how we would do our staggered elections, and also discuss with board members who are willing to give up some years of their term. I'm willing to do that in order to get this to happen. So basically, I'm not sure what the motion is required, but I just wanted to get this out for us to discuss it and perhaps vote on it in at our February regular meeting.
Okay. Any comments, board members? You certainly may.
I just want to note, as Mr. Rivers said, you would require legislative change in the.
We cannot hear y'all at all. Okay. Thank you.
In looking at the, okay, so the local bill, I pulled out the local bill to see sort of where your election system comes from. And the most recent local bill in Granville was in '89 after a Voting Rights Act lawsuit. And so the legislation does say that the terms will be 6 years. The question mark for me is that that legislation was created and passed as a result of a court order. There was a court order in the Voting Rights Act litigation, and the court order does say that the terms will be 6 years. That case was closed right after that order, which was February 1989, but the order says jurisdiction is retained to enforce this order. So I'm going to be honest, I don't know if you might need permission from the district court, which I don't think would be an insurmountable obstacle. I think that could probably be obtained, but I would need to do a little more research into whether we would have to go back and get that order modified.
Okay. Tom, yes.
So my intent was simply, we have to have the board in favor of this. We need to have a majority vote on the board. So my intention is that we try to do this in February so that we can get this before the General Assembly this year so that it would apply with the elections next year.
All right. Comments? Anybody else? Excuse me, Mr. Beauty.
Yes, this is certainly something that I would support, Mr. Rivers. But I would also like to take. This is something that I would like to support, and there's just one other aspect. I don't know if the board would be interested in it, but I would like for our attorney to look into what would be necessary to bring up the issue of term limits for board members.
Okay. Okay. So, are you aware of any school board that does that?
I am not, which is not to say that it may not exist somewhere in the state, but I'm not aware.
Okay. That might be something to look into as well. Okay. Any other comments? So do I sense that you're willing to have Mr. Rivers work on this a little bit further and maybe bring back some information at the next meeting? Yes, sir.
Along with legal guidance, that we might have a proper understanding of what we asked to do legally.
I'm sorry, I missed that last part. Right.
Yes, I just want the legal aspect from our attorney to make sure they've been
right. Okay. Good point. Very good point. Thank you. All right. Well, then go ahead and move, and we'll see what you come up with, and come back at the next meeting.
And if it's okay, I'll work directly with the board attorney.
That'd be fine. I think that's fine. Okay? All right, we're going to transition now. Staff is going to leave the table because we'll be discussing the reorganization that is before us. So if you all would go ahead and take your seat. And the reason for this, for the audience is because it's very, very important that people understand that the administration, as led by the superintendent, is not involved in this. We have intentionally kept her and others out of this because we don't want anybody to think that the superintendent is trying to tell us what to do with all of this. So with that, we have some slides that have been put up there as a kind of a reminder of some of the issues that we face. And we're not going to run through them. We'll just give you a chance to, if there's any questions. And some of the issues that we face, let's lay it out here. To balance our budget, $955,000 roughly is what's needed. And so when we look at the enrollment, and any of you want to chime in, please do so. But if we look at the enrollment, you can see where Mary Potter at one time was up to 464. Enrollment now is 248, and it's important to point out the attendance lines have not been changed during that time. In other words, the attendance lines have not been changed, which would then result in a decrease in enrollment. I think we all know that part of that is that the northern part of the county is declining in enrollment, student enrollment, and then when you include the charter school scenario, that's where we're really getting into the issue of the number of students. At Joe Toller, you can see that that has gone from a high of 229 now to 187. And does that figure include the students who are going there for choice? Okay, so the enrollment issue, as you can see, once again, is related to the same thing as Mary Potter, and that is between declining enrollment and student charters. It's just a tough scenario. This final slide shows you the percentage of capacity that the schools are currently achieving. And I think at Toller Oak Hill, it's roughly 51%, 52% capacity. And at Mary Potter Middle School, it's roughly 23% capacity. In other words, only 23% of the students' facilities and opportunities facility-wise are being used. So those are some of the items that have come out as a result of the studies that we've done. And so what I'd like to do is open this point in the meeting to a discussion of the findings of Mary Potter and the merger with Northern Granville Middle School. And I would open it up for the board if you have any comments or thoughts about this. Anybody? Yes, Mr. Smith?
Let me go ahead and get my 2 cents in. I think most people know how I feel about the closure of Joe Toller Oak Hill Elementary School. And I have to say it all with all conscience. I'm against it from the start. I'm against it from the middle. I'm against it from the end. As personal conscience, I would have to say I think it would be an act of barbarianism to close Joe Toller School. And let me give you my reasons, which I've stated so many times before in the past. I heard something tonight that echoed the same sentiment of what I had. You have one of the largest districts in Granville County that has only one school, elementary school in it, very northern end of the county. When you talk about enrollment, personnel that's there, yes, it's down to 190 some people of choice, but just about all our students have our choice. And there's no indication that other people are not going to choose to go to Toll School. What bothers me, if we look at a figure of showing that here you got a school, elementary school, in the northern part of the county, yes, which is an isolated county. You have 51% of that school capacity that is being utilized. Just as an example, another excelling school, just like Tulsa's an excelling school. You have Mount Energy that we just talked about tonight. The success that is doing, that school is only 46% occupied. But when we look at things, I'm inclined to believe that Mr. Kozart made an important statement tonight when he said that it's amazing how it seems that we in such a rush to solve the dollar figure that we have circled and singled out particular schools to close. Not looking at not looking at the ethics that is at hand here, nor the equity that could be utilized here. I thought as a Board of Education for Granville County, we were there to serve the students of the whole county in every way. I've heard a lot of things over the last few months and weeks about the reasons to close Toll versus the reasons to keep it open. And to me, we're looking at all the aspects of that county, with the populations, with the economics of it, with the value of having a community school where the kids are. To me, all the things weigh toward keeping that school open. I'm convinced without a shadow of a doubt we're moving too fast, at haste, to solve a dollar problem too quickly that will hurt and harm this county in a way that we'll never be able to recover. And as for me, someone said earlier tonight, I have to vote my conscience. There's 7 of us. But I have to vote my conscience for the importance of the children of the northern part of Granville County. And I know the effect that it would do to them, picking them up and moving them in an hour-long course on the bus. Students that walk to school, parents who have to adjust their schedule with their employee, with occupations, of now when they used to have kids that could walk down the street to a public school and have security of being in the community, now have to weigh in that time of getting their kids up early, perhaps putting them on a bus, something they've never been used to in all their lives, and to travel an hour in the morning in the dark, and an hour, particularly this type of year, an hour in the dark in the afternoon, not knowing how it's going to affect the parents who, some of us have jobs a little bit better than others. And I have to speak for the common man. And I think we need to look at the equity of what we're doing versus the reason of having a school in that northern part of Granville County. As I said before, it's a well-knit community. Everybody in the community loves that school. I believe Dr. Kozart might have had something tonight. And I wish more people would echo that sentiment. I've been saying from the beginning, why are we in such a rush to close the school? When we have not looked at all the opportunities of looking at the county at large, weigh out the potential of maybe closing another school if you must close one. Let me just say this for the record. We have 3 elementary schools in the southern part of the county that is within a 3-mile radius of one another. One of those schools are at 43%. You have another school that is still not at its full capacity either. Wilson Elementary. I could go on, but what I'm saying is, if we so bent on closing a school, why not bring equity into it? And look at how this thing is going to affect this entire case. And you're talking about people going to charter school. I don't know what this will do to the northern part of it. How it will affect their attitude toward staying with the system that we have today. I just want to say this and get it out. What bothers me during this whole procedure is that it seems like the Board of Education, a part of it, had made this decision up before we even had hearing on what we were going to do. I know for a fact that there are members on this school board who have thought about closing total school for years before we had the $900,000 issue that has come up. I know that we have board members on this board who have talked and strategized on closing that school even before they were elected on the school board. This is not a sudden agenda that has come up where we need to close the school for the sake of a dollar. I say this as a clean conscience. I believe it's been orchestrated from the beginning and targeted and singled out to close Toll Elementary School. And what bothers me so much as a board member, because I love the whole county. This Granville County is my home. My children grew up in this county. And by the way, they came from Toll and they are successful. I have a daughter who came out of Toll Elementary School. And the reason I say that is because it bothers me how we will say that, and how we pitch one school community against another school community, and say that one school has produced great people, and alluded to the fact that the other school has not. When they came up under the same school, I call that really an act of hypocrisy to make a statement like that. And I'm saying because, as we've always said in all of our time as being able to speak on the board, we have an opinion of the right to speak. And I want to say this, regardless of what you decide, I think it would be a travesty not to delay this thing and look at all the other avenues of being able to come up with the idea of this $900,000. Even your commissioner has spoken toward that. We have not even considered the fact of what the commissioner would be willing to contribute to this fact, or what other factions might bring about in keeping that school open. I don't think it's a hard decision for me. It's an easy decision that Toll School should remain open. What bothers me about the Murpata issue, I'm going to say it what I'm saying. What bothers me about the Murpata issue is that I have watched several of the board members coach other board members to get the idea that you might have a vote if you choose to go a certain way. And that amazes me how we can do that to divide a community and a county against one another. And yet at the same time, in the back of my mind of living in Granville County, I believe if you get enough votes where you would close Toll, you will not keep the promises you made to Murpata. Because you will not spend that kind of money that your next step will go up with a way to close that school, as y'all get a chance to talk, to close that school as well. I believe with all of my heart, we should look at all the other means of coming up with the sum of this $900,000 instead of hastily rushing an agenda through and using all the avenues that we've used to do it. Even saying that superintendent has an agenda she has to do within the next year. She will do what we give her. She has said that time and time again, that she will educate according to the way we set up the county to be educated. And I will not hold back on getting this out of here because I'm going to sleep good tonight. And I'm going to sleep good every day because I've been an advocate of education ever since I've been on this board. And it's a travesty to think that we would even think of this, closing the only school in the northern end of the county that is so vital for those children to get an equal opportunity of education and have the opportunity to be close to home and in the community, just as all the other elementary schools are within the county of Granville County. I just want to say that.
Thank you. Mr. Peace, please. All right, Mr. Peace.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to First of all, I want to thank Reverend Smith for that statement of fact that he just made. And I'm not going to try and go through all of that, but I agree with 99.9% of what he just said. The other thing that I would add, what sort of stuck with me, was what Commissioner Cozart said when he made his remark. And that was, why not wait he said a few years, to work on this issue. You know, I came tonight prepared really to talk about Mary Potter and give some ideas to the board about how to manage that situation. But after listening to what's been said by Reverend Smith, you know, I feel like we don't have so few funds in our fund balance that we can't wait a little while. So, you know, my position on this, and I think Reverend Smith has made his pretty clear, and all I can say is, I'm in his game.
All right. Anybody else?
I would have to disagree with some of what my friend and a colleague I greatly respect, Mr. Smith, said. And he said we all have our opinions, we all take them from the heart. I've been on the board for a little over a month, but I've been closely involved in the school district for 10 years. I would disagree with Mr. Smith. I do not think there was any kind of preconceived move to close Joe Toller, Mary Potter, or C.G. Hall. If you look at the financial situation we are in, if you look at how the public school landscape has changed, this county and this board, and the reason I ran for this board is in the 10 years I've lived in this county, I've watched this board not take action. We did not take action when the charter schools were first on the horizon coming to our county. It's a different world now. It's the 21st century. In the past 9 months, while we have actively been discussing, getting data, having work sessions, community surveys, doing all the due diligence we can do. In those 10 months, SpaceX has launched 15 rockets to put satellites in orbit. Stock market's been up and down 3 major cycles. The point being, in the 21st century, things happen faster. And I agree we do not want to make the wrong decision. But I would have to say, to defend the other board members, I disagree with Mr. Smith. I do not think there was any preconceived notions on anyone's part. I think all of us love these schools as much as I do. I spent time on the Joe Toller campus. I listened to your comments at the public hearing. It moved me greatly. I have the utmost respect for Toller. I have the utmost respect for the Toller graduates. There was a comment I made at the last work session where I made a comment that Mary Potter had the Alumni Association there. But not a single parent was there to say keep Mary Potter open. I made the comment that there were distinguished alumni from Mary Potter. I made the comment, when asked, I made the comment that Joe Toller had a whole gym full of parents who wanted to keep the school open. The problem we've got is Mary Potter is not the Mary Potter it once was. Times have changed. I believe that the legacy of Mary Potter is one of the proudest legacies in this county. And my friends in the Mary Potter Club know I speak from my heart on this. We will keep the memory of Mary Potter alive. To the best that we can, we'll keep the memory of Joe Toller alive, just however we vote tonight. But the fact of the matter is, all the board members here have agonized. I have lost more sleep over this decision than any decision just about in my life. I know all these other board members have. We've looked at the data and we've prayed over it. So Mr. Smith, I do appreciate your passion, and I'm very proud that you are standing up for your school and your district. But I just want you all to know that none of us are taking this lightly, and none of us have any particular reason to close any of these schools other than what is best for all of our students.
Okay, anybody else?
I'd like to make one comment.
Mr. Pease?
I'd like to make one comment based on what Mr. Rivers just said about no parents from the Mary Potter School attending the hearing. And, you know, for about over a year now, the plan has been out there that basically said Mary Potter is going to close. For the students, they're going to be moved to North Granville School. And I think if you think about all the parents that's there, I would surmise that they think that that's going to happen. So I would think that the reason they didn't show up because I feel like they didn't have any reason to show up to say, don't keep the school or the parents or the students here from moving. I mean, that's just my opinion, but if you surmise what's going on in the last 12 months and what's been talked about, I just don't see parents there feeling like their students won't be there.
All right. Mr. Mims?
Can you hear me in the back? Okay. Well, let me begin by saying, Happy New Year. And it is time for new beginnings. And while everyone doesn't make resolutions, I've made resolutions that I want to be the best representative that I can and to look out for all of the students in Granville County School District. Over the holidays, I read 2 articles in the Butler-Creedmoor News that I want to quote. One writer said, and I quote, "Sentiment only goes so far. Solutions needed." I totally agree. And I thought it was about time that the public spoke up. And I'm glad to see so many of you here, and I'm glad to see you speaking up. This is something that has been needed for a long time. The second writer was a reporter, Chris Harris, who referenced resolutions and concluded by saying, and I quote, "So my message for the new year would be to take charge more than usual. Stop a minor problem in its tracks before it becomes major. Stop a major problem before it becomes catastrophic and blows up in your face." We all know the issues that we face. And you all know that these issues didn't start last month or last year, or the year before that, or the year before that. If we fail to act or address these issues, we'll be sitting here next year talking about the same issues. At Joe Toller, I recall Commissioner Jay getting up and asking the question, how did we get here? But he also said that we've been talking about this for 10 years. And he indicated that we had put in fund balance about $6 million that the Board of Education could spend. Well, I've been on the Finance Committee for the last 2 years. And Reverend Smith knows that this board has been asked to cut staff positions because we had too many staff positions at Central Office. After this year's budget, the current year that we're in, the board had a chance to request to meet with the county commissioners. But this board elected not to do so. Might I also remind the audience that you have been seeing the figure $955,770. That's not all. Do you not recall that when the superintendent came in, we asked for an analysis of what we needed, and she came back and gave us a figure of $26 million to just get the infrastructure up to date. This wasn't for any new teachers or supporting students. This was just to get our house in order. The county commissioners, after requesting that the Board of Education come to a county commissioner meeting and request a bond, decided not to go forward with a bond and elected only to appropriate $15 million. So add $11 million to that $955,770 for a place to start. Let me just say, it's easy to do simple things because doing simple things is easy. It's hard to do things that are not simple. And when you have hard things, it really tests your mettle. Let me say to my fellow board members and to the audience, when I was asked to be on the Finance Committee, I expected my colleagues to expect of me the very best job that I could do. So let me tell you, I will not compromise my fiduciary responsibilities by not taking action to move our district forward. We all understand the need. We have low-performing schools. We need to assist underperforming students, and we need to restore our infrastructure. After reviewing the data, and I doubt if there's anyone in this room who's reviewed all of the data, because if you have, you know that we don't have the resources. You've heard principals, you've heard others say that we don't have the resources to bring on new programs. And I can understand each of us supporting our communities and supporting the school. But each of us has the responsibility to support the entire Granville County School District, not just single districts. So let me say about the gravity of our issues and the consequences of doing nothing yet again. We'll be back here 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, doing nothing, just like Commissioner Jay said that he heard these discussions taking place 10 years ago. Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'm prepared to make a motion that can be voted up or down. But this board needs to take some action and take definitive steps to improving our school system.
Do you have a motion?
I do.
Before he does,
Okay.
could I talk about an alternate plan?
You may. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minton. All of the board members have worked hard to come up with solutions to do the best for all these schools. We're faced with a very difficult decision here. We can't close Joe Toller for a lot of the reasons that my friend Mr. Smith said. And we can't keep it open for a lot of reasons that deal with fairness to the rest of this school district. I crunched the numbers over the holidays, over and over again. This is the expenditures by location. This is only 1 year. I looked at 4 years. It costs on average, year in and year out, it costs on average, according to looking at these numbers, the best numbers we have, about anywhere from $1,600 to $1,750 more per student per year to keep Joe Toller open than it does for West Oxford, Cradle, and Stovall Shaw. West Oxford is a low-performing school with a high EC and ESL population. These are issues that fortunately, do not confront the Toller School as much as they do West Oxford, as much as they do Cradle. I ask you, is it fair for the taxpayers whose children go to West Oxford, who pay the same tax rate as the Toller community, is it fair for them to see $1,600, $1,700 a year more go to keep Toller open? All right. Mr. Smith brought a good point up, and I made it earlier this evening in the executive session. There is a problem with closing Toller because it is the only school up there, and nobody on this board wants our children, our young children especially, to have an hour-long bus ride, one way. However, if you are going to get extra benefits by being in a small school, and you have to remember at the public hearing to the Toller community, many people said, why close our school? We have small class sizes. We're a small school. Well, the other schools don't have that benefit. So that's not fair. If you want that benefit, I propose that you help fund that benefit. And what I'm proposing is I have started a fund at the Granville Education Foundation. I've already contributed to it, called the Joe Toller Fund. That fund, I'm betting on the Joe Toller Oak Hill community. I'm betting that you will want to keep your school open and be fair to the rest of this county. I did the math. I've come up with a figure. I'll propose this as a motion. It can be voted up or down. $220,000 a year. If that money is raised in this community, Granville County, the entire community, Joe Toller community, to the Granville Ed Foundation, that will partially defray the excess cost of keeping Joe Toller open. And we can keep Toller open until hopefully a time when our financial situation improves. I've given $2,000. $2,000. I gave it to Joe Toller. I've never gone to Joe Toller. My children didn't go to Joe Toller. I don't know anybody other than Mr. Smith and a couple of others who went to Joe Toller, but I believe in your community. I also believe in what Mr. Mims said. We have to believe in our whole county.
Okay.
Well, can I just ask for, does anybody here from the Toller community support that idea? No. All right, never mind, all right.
Y'all 2 months and you gonna come here and take over?
All right, wait a minute. This is the board deliberation.
I withdraw all consideration.
All right.
Thank you very much. That was the opportunity to have the community invest in their school. I withdraw that comment.
Mr. Mims.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I want to make sure the audience can hear me. As a first step, I move that beginning with the school year 2019-2020, we close Joe Toller Oak Hill Elementary School and reassign those students.
We have a motion, we have a second, Mr. Udy. Further discussion? You ready to vote? Mr. Smith? Please, yes, sir. Okay, hold the vote by raising your hand. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion carries. Now for Mary Potter. Discussion about Mary Potter. Anybody want to discuss Mary Potter? Mr. Peace does.
You should be ashamed of yourselves. I hope you can sleep well.
Please, Mr. Peace, you would please.
I'm here tonight to talk about Mary Potter, my alma mater. I graduated from in 1960, and not that that's Well, that's important to me, but the important thing that I feel coming from where I am right now is that we figure out ways to accommodate Mary Potter, keep it alive, keep it as a viable part of the Granville County school system. And, you know, I just like to do a couple of things, really. First of all, to talk about the importance of this school has been to the town of Granville. It has a long, rich history, and it would just be a shame, in my opinion, to close that school. And at this point, I would just like to make a motion to keep that school alive. And my motion is, I move that effective July 1, 2019, Mary Potter School and Northern Granville Middle School be consolidated into a single middle school located on the current Northern Granville Middle School campus. And that the current middle school campus be maintained for the school system, used and continue to hold its name of Mary Potter. I also move that the school be, the central office be moved to Mary Potter, and that schools be moved there for various programs.
It's a sellout.
Please let him finish.
That way, based on the information that I have and that I've explored, we could continue to use that school as a school and a central office.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second, Mr. Richardson. Discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
I just need some clarification. Based on the motion, Mr. Pease, then the Mary Potter campus would have to be the home of the central office as well. In other words, we couldn't retain the current central office. We would have to dispose of it in order to relocate it to the Mary Potter campus.
That's correct.
So that would not be a requirement, that would be an option. Help me. Yeah,
The way I understand it, it is a requirement.
The motion is the requirement that we do that.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Thank you. Okay?
Well, the only reason why I asked that is because of the estimates that we got. If we can't afford $955,000, we sure can't afford $4 million to renovate anything on Mary Potter.
Well,
so for that portion of your motion, I can't support.
If you know anything about construction, obviously we can do what we need to do over there without spending $4 million. And the other part of this is that if the central office building is sold, that'll be a profit and will save the system approximately $25,000 a year in utilities. If you look at it over a 5-year period, that's $100,000 plus the sale of the building. And the other thing that I'm aware of, being in construction as long as I am, that there's a lot of things that can be done over there for less than $4 million.
If I could jump in and say something at this point. I think what Mr. Peace is trying to do is to do everything he can by getting it approved by this board to do all that we can to keep that Mary Potter school name, obviously, but to make it a viable school and community complex that some of us believe can be even something you could be even prouder about moving forward. We are in a different time. Times change. We have 248 students at Mary Potter, and I'm going to be honest with you, I am embarrassed that those kids are not getting the same set of opportunities as other kids and other middle schools get because of the numbers. We are funded in this state on average daily membership, which means the total number of students in a school determines how many teachers one gets at a school. Well, because of the numbers, we get enough teachers for the basics and one or two others. I could go on and on. There is nobody on this board that wants to close that school. And if there was anything that came up to vote to close it, I guarantee you I wouldn't, and I don't think anybody else would. We have got to come to grips and make that an even better educational facility in the future, or as Mr. Mims mentioned, we'll be right back here next year, and the next year, and the next year. So I just want to say that I support his motion because I truly believe he wants to make that school a win-win. And I approve of that motion.
Mr. Chairman, can I just thing?
Yes, sir.
The idea, from my perspective, is that I've been looking at and trying to figure out ways to not close Mary Park, and of course Tola also. But the idea that I have, I feel like it's a viable option that we have to keep it open. Now, and I'll stand by that, regardless of how the vote goes. I'll stand by that.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to clarify. I support Mr. Peace's motion, but I am concerned, like Mr. Mims, about the requirement to move the central office. I believe it's Mr. Michael Mohammed who, at the Mary Potter public hearing, suggested that we consider schools with adult education, adult vocational training. Granville Academy, which is apparently going great guns and is quite a successful school, has been talked about basing Granville Academy on the Mary Potter campus. I would like to ask if Mr. Peace would modify his motion where we look to investigate moving the central office there, but only if it makes financial sense. I've gotten a lot of emails and phone calls from people who were the impression that we were going to spend $4 million to modify that school. And that's just not the case. We're not going to do that to make the central office. If it does not make financial sense, the central office will not move. But Mary Potter will stay a school, and hopefully we'll see race back to the heights where it once was. So, Mr. Peace, I like your motion. I just would like to wonder if you could just slightly modify it where we're not required to move the central office unless it makes financial sense.
I believe I was asked to have a question.
Okay.
Before we make some type of another motion.
Yes, sir.
I really just have a comment. From the evidence of what, if people are really listening, I'm speaking from an ear. If you're really listening, what I said earlier about how you have coded one school community over another school is so evident in the statement that's just been made. Or how you say Mr. P. I admire you, keep Murray Park. This is how I want to keep Joe Tola. But the evidence of what I'm talking about is that, look at the fact that when you said that you wanted to move central office to Murray Park, and then the idea came up about if it was feasible financially. I believe that's the same statement I made a few minutes ago, that we have been plotted against one another to close one school with the hope of keeping the other one open. And then down the road, we're going to find ways to close the other school as well. And finance is going to still be the same thing that is going to be used. I have no problem. I understand middle school is 3 miles apart. But what bothers me again is the way we are rushing into things, and we have not looked at moving all the elementary schools into Murray Potter. If Murray Potter is that so beloved to some of y'all, you have said that it means so much to you, you got all the schools right around a 4th mile from Murray Potter that's in the same condition that Murray Potter did. In fact, why not move one of those elementary schools into Merpata. If you really say you love Merpata, why don't you look at those other options? It's evidence that it's been strategized and pre-planned on the schools that you want to close. And you're using tactics that's old as Methuselah to do it. And that's a fact. I'm not a smart guy, but I know what a con is. And I smell one.
All right. Mr. Peake.
The question was asked if I'm willing to amend my motion. And the answer to that is no.
Mr. Chair, I need further explanation. What is the time frame for divesting of the current central office? That's where I have the hang up. Is this next school year, or what are you talking about? We have to be out of the current central office.
The answer to your question is not a definitive answer, because if you let me finish, sir, I appreciate it. The idea is to leave the central office there, move the students, and like I said, next school year, leave the central office where it is until Merpata is renovated and they can move into it and then sell the building.
Well, then I apologize, because I did not understand you to say leave central office where it is until it is renovated and so forth. I heard you say basically go to put the central office at Mary Park.
Let's just, for clarity, have the motion read as it's down on paper at this point in terms of sharing that with us. Go ahead.
Did you get it?
Ms. Pettaway, if you would, please.
Motion that effective July 1st, 2019, Mary Potter Middle School and Northern Granville Middle School would be consolidated into a single middle school on the Northern Granville Middle School campus. Also move the central office to be required to move to Mary Potter Middle School campus, as well as housing a school on the Mary Potter Middle School campus, as well as a community complex center.
Okay, so that motion does not have a date on it. So that leaves it open for staff and so forth. Okay? Does that clarify for you, Mr. Mintz? Does that clarify?
We don't have a date specific that we have to be out.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Rivers.
So if I may, just, I think it's address the rules of order. You've asked that he amend his motion.
He said he would not like to. So the motion as it is can be voted on, or subsidiary motion can be made either to divide the issues and vote on them individually, or to amend the motion. Either of those would require a majority before you get to the underlying motion, if that makes sense.
Okay. I think that's Mr. Rivers.
Mr. Beast, I cannot support your motion as it's currently stated because I'm concerned, based on the architectural study, that we do have certain county building code requirements that could make the cost of moving the central office prohibitive. I think there's many opportunities to keep schools on the Mary Potter campus if it's financially unfeasible to move the central office. I know that's our goal, and we're trying to save the most money and hire the most teachers and do the best for our children. But I think I'm just asking for flexibility. Certainly that would be a goal, and that's what we've all worked towards. But if you put it in there that we're required to, and we find out for some reason that due to codes that we've already been told by the architects do exist in the county, and we're going to have to spend some inordinate amount of money to move the central office, that just doesn't make financial sense. So that's why I'm asking, or I'll offer an alternate motion, that we can somehow get around that requirement, but we do want to achieve that as our goal, but we just aren't locked in if we find out we can't do it financially.
Mr. Rivers, being that I've been working in construction for about 35 years, I've been through the architectural drawing, recommendations, and of course, there's a lot of things in there that we don't have to do. There's a lot of things in there that maintenance in our system can do. And I would venture to say that somewhere between $1.5 million and $2 million, we could do it for less than $4 million. And we have to, in my opinion, look at the amount of money it's going to cost to do this. Of course, that's number one. The other thing that's taken into consideration is the effect that it's going to have on the community, on the children that go to school. So there's more than just a financial part. Of course, it's going to cost some money to do what I'm doing. But when I look at selling central office and the savings you get from not having to pay utilities on that building, we have to, it's a no-win situation. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I just say at this point, I just think you're wrong.
Very good. All right. Mr. Rivers, would you like to respond?
I have a question for Ms. Newsom. If we pass this motion and we find out, for whatever reason, that the costs are going to be, and I frankly cannot support $1.5 million to move the central office to Mary Potter, not when we're in the financial straits we're in. If we find out that it's going to be $2 million or something like that, and we can't support that, can we rescind or modify this motion if at the time we have evidence that it's going to cost too much to move the central office to Mary Potter?
Yes, you could. I believe under your procedures that would just require a majority as long as it's a majority of the full board, which you generally have, as long as it's properly noticed in advance.
One of the problems, Mr. Rivers, from my perspective with what you've just said is that how much is too much? For you, it may be $1 million. For others, it may be $500,000. For others, it may be $1.5 million. The bottom line is that what I believe he's asking is that commitment to doing this with the various options about cost and that kind of thing that we would ultimately have to make. In other words, we make a commitment. We don't know how much it's going to cost. We then have to figure out what we want in there, what we can afford, and that kind of thing. I just think the reason I support it is I think it sends a very important message that we're not going to close that building, we're not going to close the school, and we're going to do everything we can to make it the most viable possible organization that we can. So I would support it. Are there any other questions or comments? Mr. Mims.
Mr. Chair, I think what convoluted this issue is the combining of the two motions. If there were two separate motions, I don't think we would have this discussion. Because the second portion of the motion, I think every board member wants to retain and maintain Mary Potter. But we have had, based on the information that we have today, it is not viable based on our financial, our funding, our finances right now. So to commit to do something when you know you can't afford it doesn't make financial sense. And that is my point. I don't mind us looking at it, coming up with figures and determining, yes, we can afford it. But to require us to do it now when we don't know whether or not we can afford it, that doesn't make sense.
How would you address what you just said in terms of a motion or whatever that would be?
I support Mr. Peace, and I think the first portion of the motion is something that would sail through without any opposition. Somehow we need to get his idea of what would cost $1 million or $1.5 million. We heard from the I guess contractors that there were electrical and there were other items that might have to be brought up to code. And based on those things, you know, until we got some idea to require us to have to make those modifications without having a more concrete dollar figure, I think is not wise financially.
A couple of things. Number one, we didn't hear from contractor, hear from engineer. We hear from the engineer. And that's a whole other ball game.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
One comment. Again, we had said here talking about our commitment, spending up to $1 million or more to preserve the school. And we just voted to close down the school for less than $1 million. And that school does not even require. The school that we so just voted with that great compassion act to close down does not even require $500,000 to stay on. That's why I just have to say this. You know, say to the board at large, I have great respect for all of you, but shame on each one of you.
All right, Mr. Richardson.
I think one thing we need to take in mind with Mr. Smith's comment is that there was $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million worth of repairs that need to be done to that school we just closed. And so it's not just the operating cost, it's what it takes to make that school usable. And even this year, haven't we heard twice we have water problems at that school, that they've had to shut down the school for the well. So I think it's not just the ongoing expense we have to think about, it's everything it takes to operate the school district. So that needs to be a correction there.
We currently have a motion on the floor regarding. Okay, go ahead.
I want to say the same thing as well. That's true with every school in Granville County. Every school in Granville County is going through process that needs money to keep it up to par. Every single one, from the south to the north to the east to the west. That is a sorry excuse to point where you would close one school and want to keep all schools.
All right, we can vote on this motion, or somebody could make a motion to divide the question. That's one way we can, that would take a majority vote.
Mr. Chair, on the floor, I move that we divide the question.
Is there a second? We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. That motion is defeated. All right, back to the original motion. Would you please read it one more time? Speak up. Back to the original motion. Would you please read it one more time?
Motion that effective July 1st, 2019, Mary Potter Middle School and Northern Granville Middle School will be consolidated into a single middle school housed on the campus of Northern Granville Middle School. Also requires that central office be moved to the Mary Potter Middle School campus, and where they will also house a school on that campus as well as a community complex center.
All right, you've heard the motion. We have had a second. So at this point, does anybody have any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed? We have a 3. Let's do that again. All right, let's vote again, because all right, all those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Okay. All those opposed, raise your hand. That motion is defeated. Thank you very much. So, we're back to square one. Is that, so you can make a motion if you would like to, Mr. Mims.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I move that we assign the students from Mary Potter Middle School, Northern Granville Middle School, beginning school year 2019-2020.
All right, we have a motion and a second from Mr. Udy. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, motion carries. Yes, sir?
I'd like to offer a second motion.
Okay.
I move that this board look into and consider moving the central office to the Mary Potter campus, and that this board look at taking the suggestions from the community about looking at adult vocational training, about relocating Granville Academy, and about maintaining a vibrant school presence on that campus.
Second.
We have a second. Does that motion include examining the possibility of moving the central office?
Yes, sir. It does. If it makes financial sense, if it satisfies the burden we have to hire teachers, to educate our children, if it does that and it makes sense, then yes, we move forward.
Okay. Any further questions? Anybody?
Just because the motion was the board to consider, by that you mean, are you asking administration to bring you?
Are you asking that the administration bring you proposals for options or data?
What I'm asking is that we plan to move the central office at the appropriate time, subject to the financial viability of it. In other words, if for whatever reason, we'll have to vote. If we're going to have to take this much money, the board will vote and say that's too much money, let's get a lower cost option, because we don't want to burden the education of our children on moving the central office. So it's a global thing. We have to look at how much money we save by closing Delacroix Street, how much money it costs to satisfy the code to move the offices to Mary Potter.
And I'm just trying to make sure for the benefits that it's clear how we will know when you've carried out the motion. So it sounds like it's a motion that the board study these things that you're listing.
Correct. I would say that the administration, that the superintendent, present to us at the appropriate time information that indicates the cost based on appraisals, based on contractor estimates, that we get a clear financial picture, and if it makes financial sense, the board votes up or down to move the central office at that time. Mary Potter will still be in existence with schools on that campus.
Right. Include in your motion selling of the central office and the cost that we would get from that would play into this.
Yes, sir. The whole package. We would look at the overall package of disposing of the Delacroix property, Delacroix Street property, recognizing a profit or some gain from that, offsetting the cost of moving to Mary Potter, and if financially it comes within what we can do without affecting our educational capabilities, then we move forward at that time.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. That's a lot of what you said in terms of a motion. I know a motion, we got a second. But I think we need to reread that one more time, if you would, the motion.
I have a motion that the board consider moving the central office to the Mary Potter campus, including this, I would say, studying the options for vocational training, relocating Granville Academy.
The motion was, if I may.
Okay.
The motion was that the Mary Potter campus be a facility for education, that schools be located on that campus. We already have Phoenix Academy, but we're going to... Oh.
So just again, try to make the motion in a way so that it will be clear what the...
Understand, it's the second half of Mr. Peace's motion without the requirement to move the central office.
Okay.
So if the motion would be that the Mary Potter campus remain an educational facility with schools on the campus, which we already are studying and planning to move forward, and that we look at data provided to us by the superintendent to make a decision whether it's financially appropriate to move the central office and sell the Delacroix property.
Summarizing a motion that the Mary Potter campus be maintained as an educational facility, and that the administration provide options for the location of the central office and other programs on that facility. Cost options.
All right. Does anybody, all right. That motion is made in a second. Doing due diligence here, I think we need to have the motion reread before we vote. And
Motion that Mary Potter campus be maintained as a facility for education and that the administration provide the board with cost options for the location of additional programs and the central office at that facility.
is that correct? Correct. All right. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, motion carries. All right, board members, at this time we need a motion to go into executive session. We have a motion. Mims, second, Richardson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. We will have executive